Part 1. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Lugo Meyer. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 Reborn. By a dark river, a woman with disheveled hair slowly climbed up from the river. Under the faint moonlight, the woman raised her wet head and showed a weird smile. Two young men standing by the river looked at Mukinjian with fear on their faces. The man who was obviously no longer breathing miraculously climbed out of the river. The two men looked at the strange scene and suddenly screamed. They fell to the ground and kept retreating. I was so scared that I crawled into the car and drove away from the river. Mukinjian, who was lying by the river, looked at the two people who ran away. What does it mean to gently wipe the hair from your face with your hands? Mukinjian slowly controlled this new body and looked at the unfamiliar hands under the moonlight. She knew that she was no longer the master of the country. She had died, but she was miraculously reborn. I really want to thank the owner of this body for the miraculously merging of her soul and this body. Mukinjian stood up and turned around to look at the strange ghostly figure floating on the river blankly. The girl looked at Mukinjian with a blank expression. Who are you? Why are you in my body? Are you a ghost? Can you help me take revenge? I was killed by my stepmother, she killed me dad, she wants to kill me. My brother is gone too, I died so miserably. Mukinjian looked at the original owner crying so much that a normal person would be frightened to death. The white dress was bloody, and the pale face was streaming with bright red tears. Fortunately, Mukinjian has seen a lot, otherwise she would have been frightened and given up a heart attack. Appease the original owner and get all her information. Mukinjian looked at the original owner with a serious face. You know you are dead, and you can't take this body. This heavenly master also promised you to avenge you. Do you have any regrets? You can tell this heavenly master, you don't need to stay in the human world anymore. It's not good for you to linger on the mortal world. You can go and be reincarnated with peace of mind. The original owner looked moved and excitedly floated in front of Mukinjian. Can I really be reincarnated as a human being? Mukinjian looked at her with longing eyes. Well, you will have a pair of parents who will love you all your life, and you will live a carefree and happy life. Then how can I reincarnate? I'll go. I'll die anyway, so I'll give this body to you. You just need to help me take care of my brother. I'm sorry for him for not being able to protect my brother. The original owner was a little sad. Said. Mukinjian waved her hand, and the door was opened on the river, and a black and a white ghost walked out of it, which was the impermanence of black and white. The original owner hid behind Mukinjian with a look of fear on her face, looking at the two strange ghosts, completely forgetting that she was also a ghost now. Hey Baivuchain looked at Mukinjian with a surprised look on his face. This familiar feeling made him look like Mutianchi. Who are you? Baivuchain looked confused. Mukinjian smiled and said, I am Mukinjian. Baivuchain is fine. Hey Vuchain looked surprised. No wonder Mukinjian had no soul after her death. It turned out that she had come to modern times. Baivuchain clasped his fists at Mukinjian respectfully. It turned out to be Master Mu. Master Mu is now in modern times. I hope we won't make the same mistake again. After the death of Master Mu, the Mu family has been completely exterminated in the Xian kingdom. Now its Master Mu Tian is the only one left. Mukinjian looked sad when she heard this and smiled bitterly. Thank you for letting me know, I will do it. I hope you can find a good family for her and reincarnate her, thank you. Baivuchain nodded. Okay, Master Mu Tian, please take care. Mukinjian watched the black and white impermanence take away the place where the original owner disappeared, and looked up at the starry sky, with tears in her eyes falling gently on her cheeks. Grandpa, I will live a good life and will not let down your expectations and the family's support. I will inherit the Mu family's metaphysics and will not let the Mu family fail. Mukinjian looked determined. Hey Vuchain looked at Baivuchain. Let's leave like this. Doesn't Master Mu Tian need to be taken away? Bai Vuchang rolled his eyes, "Go and catch him if you can. I don't mind if you go now. If you don't go, why should I lie in this muddy water?" But the Mu family is really capable, and can actually change their fate against the will of heaven, but it's a pity that Master Mu is the only one left. He Vuchang shook his head helplessly. Bai Vuchang pulled the original owner, "Okay, hurry up and send her to reincarnation, we have other tasks." In this way, the black and white impermanence sent the original owner to Mengpo. The original owner drank Mengpo soup without any resistance and was reincarnated. This article is different from previous articles in that it has a wider imagination. The fast-paced novel and the reality of the divine world sometimes switch back and forth, and you can't stop if you don't like it. I am a newbie in entertainment writing and my writing style is not very good. Mainly because I wrote it for myself out of boredom. Therefore, I would like to vaccinate everyone in advance: read in peace, do not accept malicious slander, and watch in a friendly manner. I hope that you who read this book will be happy and healthy every day, and will always be a beautiful little fairy. Refill. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 2. Chapter 2: Mysterious Aura. Mu Qingjian washed her face by the river and saw that her clothes were still white and stained with blood. He got up helplessly and walked towards the road. After walking for more than 10 minutes, he looked at the deserted road with no grass and no cars. Mu Qingjian, who was already exhausted, sat helplessly on the side of the road and could only wait and see. A large truck passing by occasionally saw Mu Qingjian in a wet and white dress and was so frightened that she almost had a car accident. He stabilized the steering wheel and immediately stepped on the accelerator to accelerate away. Mu Qingjian sighed helplessly, lamenting why modern people are so timid. Isn't it because they are dirty and wet with blood? Every one of them felt as if they had seen a ghost. If those driver masters knew what Mu Qingjian said about them, they would probably refute it. After all, it was late at night, and a woman with disheveled hair, wet and eyes appeared standing on the side of the road. They believe they are normal people and they don't dare to stop. Mu Qingjian didn't dare to stop when she saw several cars passing by. She would just stand in the middle of the road, preparing to block the vehicles and rob them. After all, if it continues to be consumed like this, the body, which has lost too much blood, will be a little unable to hold on. Even though she has great magic skills, she still can't bear that this is not her original body. Finally, 10 minutes later, a cool black car appeared in front of Mu Qingjian. Shang He, who was driving, saw a woman suddenly appear on the road, and was so frightened that he stepped on the brakes from a distance. Under the illumination of the car lights, he looked at Mu Qingjian, who was in a miserable state and full of terror. He turned his head towards the man in the back seat with a frightened expression. Young master, we seem to have met a ghost." The man looked at Mu Qingjian in front of the car, with a half-exposed face and pale lips. His whole body was wet, and he looked like a fierce ghost. No wonder Shang He was so scared. Mu Qingjian looked at the stopped car excitedly and leaned against the car window with a curious look on her face. A small face was pressed against the car window, and a pair of hands slapped the car window, smiling happily. Shang He saw the scary laughing female ghost suddenly lying on the car window, and he immediately fell back in fright. "Master, help me, there is a ghost, it wants to eat me." The man looked at Shang He and sighed helplessly, "Look clearly, it's a human or a ghost." Shang He secretly looked at Mu Qingjian in fear, and finally realized that it was a human being, and his heart finally dropped. Hurriedly opened the window and stared at Mu Qingjian with an unhappy expression. "Hey, you're standing on the road in the middle of the night. You don't want to live? Do you know that you almost scared me to death?" "No. That's the wrong word. Do you know that I almost hit you? What did you want to do?" Shang He looked at Mu Qingjian, who was pretending to be a scary ghost, with an angry look on his face. "Are all girls today so bold? Mukinjian looked apologetic and smiled, "Well, I'm really sorry. I couldn't get a taxi and had to stand in the middle of the road. Can you give me a ride?" Shang He looked at Mukinjian, the corners of his mouth trembled slightly. With this look, no one would stop. The baby was scared to death, okay, almost half to death. Shang He looked back at the man in the back seat and saw the man nodding. Shang He opened the car door. "You sit here in the middle. This is a newspaper. You should put it on the ground and don't make a mess in the car." Mukinjian opened the car door, picked up the newspaper Shang He mentioned, and put it on the car seat. Slowly, I sat down and found a young man next to the back seat. He is about 1.90 meters tall, with dark purple hair in his messy black hair, and his dark pupils appear even deeper. The shimmering cold light in his eyes gave people a cold look. His eyes were like ink, his lips were slightly pursed, and his face was like ice. Wearing a pure white shirt, there is a blue-purple school emblem embroidered on the left chest. Mukinjian nodded and smiled at him. Mo Ching Cheng glanced at Mukinjian and continued playing with the computer with his head down. Looking at Mo Ching Cheng, who ignored her, Mukinjian shook her head and sighed helplessly. "Forget it, children, it's normal not to care about others." Mukinjian closed her eyes and rested her mind. She felt that her strength had recovered and her face was no longer pale. Turns his head and looks at Mo Ching Cheng with a surprised look on his face. "Who is this guy's background?" Mukinjian took a look with her heavenly eyes and saw that her whole body was exuding a thick, mysterious and pure aura. This is even more powerful than the golden light. It is simply too powerful. This is some kind of deity descending to earth to experience calamity. She has seen good people with golden light in 10 lifetimes, ordinary people with colorless gray, and bad guys with black. Only the first time I saw this, the purple aura was really a good thing to practice. It seems that if you want to recover the mana from your previous life faster, you can only rely on the help of the noble person in front of you. I will definitely thank him when the time comes, so I a little more now, don't let it go to waste." After speaking, he continued to close his eyes and relax, absorbing the purple spiritual energy from this car. Mo Ching Cheng raised his head, frowning and looking at Mukinjian's back with a puzzled expression. Why did she look like that just now? She is really strange. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 Amulet. After Mukinjian finished absorbing it, she couldn't help but sigh. This person's purple energy has immeasurable merits. In just half an hour, she recovered to 20%. If she relied on him to practice for another year and a half, she would definitely return to the status quo of her previous life. This is simply a walking treasure furnace. Mukinjian looked excited and was thinking about how to get close to him. Mukinjian turned her head and looked at him with a solemn expression. She kept counting the noble man in front of her with her fingers, but she couldn't figure out his fate. I can only count the others, but this one is shocking. This guy will have a catastrophe tomorrow, and this catastrophe may make him a vegetable for the rest of his life. This is a noble person she cultivated for the sake of future cultivation. She can't just die without saving him. Well, you must not get in the car at noon tomorrow, otherwise there will be a disaster, and you will either die or be disabled. Mukinjian held Mo King Cheng's hand and looked at him with a solemn expression, her black eyes like endless abyss. Mo Ching Cheng hesitated for a moment and took out his hand somewhat unhappily. With a look of disgust on his face, he picked up the handkerchief from his trouser pocket and wiped the hand stained by Mukinjian. Mukinjian was still sighing. The noble man in front of her had really slippery hands. Ahem, Mukinjian coughed a few times to break the awkward situation. Shang-He saw the scene in the rearview mirror and looked excited. The young master actually had his hand touched. Good guy, the woman in front of him is so brave. You must know that the young master particularly dislikes women. Even if the wife wants to touch the young master, she has to ask. Mo Ching Chen looked at Mu Qingjian coldly, don't touch me, and stay away from me, or you'll get out of the car. Mu Qingjian looked at Mo Ching Chen, how dare this guy dislike her. When she grew up, she always disliked others. He is such a lonely guy. If he didn't think he was a noble person, no one would want to talk to him. With an unhappy look on his face, he took the handkerchief away from his arms. Showing his flawless white teeth, he bit his hand. Then he quickly wrote a peace charm on the handkerchief with the blood of his fingers. Throw it straight to him with a look of disgust on his face. This peace talisman can protect your life. It is considered as my travel expenses. Please don't take the car at noon. After saying that, he opened the car door and walked out. Mu Qingjian turned her head and said something to the man as she closed the door. My name is Mu Qingjian, you brat, please remember my name after all, this heavenly master will be your savior tomorrow, please be polite to me then, see you later. Mo Ching Chen had a puzzled look on his face. Why did she dislike him? Why did she say such nonsense? She must be crazy. Holding the handkerchief, looking at the handkerchief with strange words written on it. Looking at Mu Qingjian's retreating back again, the girl always felt that something was a little abnormal. What kind of words are written here? Although the words look like a talisman. Shang-He looked curious, Master, is she abnormal here? Shang-He pointed at his head and asked curiously. Mo Ching Chen looked at Shang-He with disgust, even if she is abnormal, her IQ is higher than yours. Shang-He felt aggrieved instantly when Mo Ching Chen said this. Master, I am from Hartford after all. I am not stupid. Mo Ching Chen chuckled, not stupid, but stupid. Shang-He could not explain to his young master that he was not stupid, because his young master's IQ was beyond the reach of ordinary people, so he continued to drive silently. Shang-He looked at Mo Ching Chen holding the handkerchief, folded it inexplicably, and wrapped it in a clean handkerchief. He put it into his backpack and picked up a tissue to wipe his hands. After taking the series of measures, he himself didn't even know how strange his current behavior was. Shang-He shook his head and sighed, the young master just disliked her, why did he accept it again? This is not cleanliness. Mu Qingjian came to the gate of a community based on what she saw about the original owner. The security guard at the gate of the community looked surprised when he saw Mu Qingjian. Xiao Yan. What's wrong with you? What's going on? Why are you all wet? Oops, your forehead is injured, and you're covered in blood. Do you want Grandpa to call the police for you? And the uncle opened the door nervously. Mu Qingjian looked at the security guard's sincere concern and smiled. Grandpa, I'm fine, no need to call the police. I did it accidentally, it just looks scary. Uncle An had a look of disbelief, Xiao Yan. You man. You have to be tough, otherwise you will only get bullied. If it doesn't work, call the police and ask the police for help. Don't let your mind wander. You are still young. Uncle An looked like he hated iron for not being able to become steel, and he talked a lot about it. Mu Qingjian did not appear impatient and listened carefully to what Uncle An said. Uncle An saw that Mu Qingjian had listened and patted her. He signaled her to go back and change clothes quickly so that she wouldn't get too cold. Mu Qingjian thanked her and returned to the original owner's home. Listening to the sound coming from the room, he picked up the key he carried with him with a look of disgust and opened the door as the original owner had done. A man and a woman on the sofa in the living room looked at Mu Qingjian with fear on their faces. Ghost. The woman was so frightened that she fell to the ground. The white flesh in front of Mu Qingjian made her feel disgusted. Mu Qingjian looked at the man and woman who killed the original owner. They were so ungrateful. They were simply filthy and filthy people. He walked up to them coldly, staring at them fiercely with an expression full of disgust. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Lugo Meyer. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. You can't run away. Mu Qingjian's stepmother Huang Wanwan screamed in fear, "Don't come over, don't kill me. If you want to blame me, it's your fault. Help." The man next to Huang Wanwan also looked at Mu Qingjian in fear, but he hadn't seen any movement from Mu Qingjian for a long time. Only then did he realize that she was actually a living person, and he was instantly furious. "I'll beat you to death for being such a shameless little cousin, for daring to pretend to be a ghost and scare people." The man rushed towards Mu Qingjian menacingly. Mu Qingjian saw that this filthy man dared to hit herself and kicked the man away. With the man's disbelief on his face, he was kicked towards the TV and smashed it. The TV set fell down and hit the man again. The man screamed and was knocked unconscious. Huang Wanwan looked at the scene and was so frightened that she screamed even louder. Mu Qingjian covered her ears with an impatient look on her face. "Shut up, if you scream again I'll cut off your tongue." Huang Wanwan was so frightened that she became incontinent and covered her mouth to prevent herself from making any sound. Mu Qingjian silently took a few steps back and looked at Huang Wanwan on the ground with a look of disgust. What a disgusting person, indeed a filthy and dirty person. "Huang Wanwan, it's time for you to pay back your life and pay your debts." Mu Qingjian's voice rang in her ears, and Huang Wanwan felt like she had lost her soul. "Bring out the evidence of Mu Qingjian's murder, as well as the real estate certificate." Mu Qingjian took her mobile phone and real estate certificate, picked up her mobile phone and dialed the police number. Soon the police came to the door. Mu Qingjian pretended to be scared and hid behind the police. The policeman raised his gun and signaled Huang Wanwan to put down the knife in her hand, but Huang Wanwan seemed not to hear her. He raised the kitchen knife viciously and slashed at Mu Qingjian. He said vicious words, I'll kill you, and this money and this house will be mine. Ha ha ha, you little cousin. Your mother robbed my man, and she deserves to die. Ha ha, kill you." The police looked at Huang Wanwan, who was in a crazy state, and a group of people were holding bulletproof shields. The special police stepped forward to stop Huang Wanwan and pushed her to the ground. Huang Wanwan screamed wildly, struggled and injured the special police officer, and was handcuffed directly and taken into a police car. Mu Qingjian was also protected, got into the police car, and left the community to the surprise of Uncle and the neighbors. The female police officer on the side patted Mu Qingjian on the shoulder and said, "Don't be afraid, little girl. It's okay. No one dares to hurt you anymore." Mu Qingjian raised her big wet eyes and looked at the policewoman with her thin body trembling slightly. Hand held the other person's hand in fear, the cold hand was trembling. "Police sister, why did my stepmother want to kill me? I obviously work for the family every day, and I obviously do a good job." The policewoman looked at Mu Qingjian and murmured, "Hey, people are unpredictable. It's okay, she will be punished by law." The people in the police car looked at Mu Qingjian with pity. "What a poor girl. She is as skinny as a 14-year-old when she is 17 or 18. 3 years ago, Mu Qingjian's father had an accident, and her stepmother and her stepson took over the house. She suffered from hunger and cold for 3 years. The poor girl earned her own tuition fees, and her stepmother actually wanted to inherit the inheritance when she was 18. He is really a cruel person who wants to kill Mu Qingjian." This was just said by the nearby neighbors, so the police and others knew what the girl in front of them had experienced. So she is almost 18 years old and very thin. How can she be an adult girl who is almost 18 years old? He looks only 14 years old, which is really pitiful. After getting out of the police car, Mu Qingjian was unable to stand, leaning slightly. The policewoman immediately supported her to prevent her from falling due to exhaustion. Mu Qingjian looked shy, lowered her head and said thank you. The policewoman looked at poor Mu Qingjian and felt even more distressed. This is exactly what Mu Qingjian wants. After all, killing is illegal in this world. Being able to punish Huang Wanwan and others in the simplest way, it was not impossible for her to pretend to be weak. At the police station, Huang Wanwan finally regained consciousness and screamed loudly that she was wronged. The police officer roughly pushed her upright on the chair and handcuffed her, with a look of disgust on his face. What is it called? We will not wrongly accuse a good person, but we will never wrongly accuse a bad person. Whether you are wronged or not, we will know later. Huang Wanwan was so scared that she didn't move. When she saw Mu Qingjian, she even started to tremble with fear. She knew that Mu Qingjian was a ghost who came to pay for her life, but they didn't believe her. Everyone was fascinated by Mu Qingjian. She knew that she couldn't fight this ghost. She was the dead girl who came to seek her life. All the evidence was placed in front of Huang Wanwan, and Huang Wanwan admitted that she had sent people to help bury Mu Qingjian's body. Huang Wanwan shouted dissatisfiedly, "Isn't she still alive? Doesn't this constitute murder?" The male police officer sneered, as if he were illiterate. "You are guilty of murder even if she is alive. You just attacked the police with a knife, and you can't run away." Mu Qingjian sat on the chair with a sad look on her face, and Huang, "Where did you sell my brother? I haven't seen my brother for 3 days. He must be very scared. Please give me my brother back." This time, Huang Wanwan was even more frightened, and she was even more sure that she was not a human being. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Protect him for the rest of his life. Huang Wanwan saw Mu Qingjian talking about his younger brother, with a look of fear on her face when she saw Mu Qingjian secretly smiling evilly at her. Didn't she tell that girl that her brother was lost on her own? How did she know that her brother was sold? The person in front of her was indeed not a human being. Huang Wanwan immediately shouted, I didn't mean it. I sold him to my hometown. I didn't harm anyone, so don't hurt me. Don't eat me, don't kill me." The police saw that Huang Wanwan was abducting children, which was an added crime. The police officer on the side saw that Huang Wanwan was talking nonsense and asked if she had eaten her, so he should not kill her. It was obvious that she wanted to kill Mu Qingjian, but she was still so confused as to say such a thing. Could it be that she wanted to pretend to be crazy and act stupid to escape reality? Don't think that you are pretending to be crazy and acting stupid. It is impossible for you to escape from the crime you committed. Don't think that I don't know what you are thinking. You just want to pretend to be crazy and evade responsibility. Let me tell you, it is impossible. Huang Wanwan has committed a lot of crimes, and she will probably go to jail in this life. Huang Wanwan saw that everything had been exposed. She looked at Mu Qingjian in fear, and quickly revealed her crime. In the police officer's surprise, Mu Qingjian stood out. They all felt sorry for her when they met such a vicious stepmother. Mu Qingjian lowered her head. No one saw that she was surprisingly calm. If you look closely, you will find that she is sneering. Only Huang Wanwan has seen this scene, but who would believe a murderer's words? In the end, Huang Wanwan was sentenced to life imprisonment, and Huang Juanjuan's lover was sentenced to 20 years in prison. If you harm others or yourself, you will eventually be punished. Mu Qingjian was very satisfied with this result. After all, it was too easy to die alone. Death was the highest state. For such a person, it would be easy for her to go to hell. She would not even be able to die, but she was carrying 3 lives. The next day, with the help of the police, Mu Qingjian also picked up her younger brother Mu Xiao from the countryside where Huang Wanwan had mentioned. Mu Qingjian was surprised when she received him. He looked like her younger brother. After all, he was actually Ao's reincarnation. Could this be regarded as God's compensation for her? Mu Xiao looked at Mu Qingjian as the police car got off with a pair of big frightened eyes. A pair of eyes shed tears of fear, and he ran over. Sister, we have you, sister, you have finally found me. Xiao is so scared that she will never see her again. Mu Qingjian looked at Mu Xiao who was holding her thigh, and bent down to hug him. I'm sorry, sister, I'm late. I've made you suffer, and I'll never do it again. Mu Qingjian looked at her younger brother who looked exactly like her in her previous life, with a look of distress on her face. Her younger brother Au was killed by a monster when he was only 10 years old. It was all her fault that she offended many demons and ghosts, which resulted in the death of her brother without any body parts. Because of this, her mother longed for her dead brother. She had been injured by a monster and suffered internal injuries. The internal injuries deepened as her brother passed away. In order to avenge his brother and mother, his father chose to die with his enemies. In the end, only he, his grandfather and the elders of the Mu family were left. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Xiao tightly. God saw that she was too obsessed with her brother. So it's great to send her brother back to her side. Mu Xiao looked at her sister who was hugging her tightly, her little face full of happiness. My sister is finally willing to hug herself. Her sister never took the initiative to hug herself before. The police officer looked at Mu Qingjian and Mu Xiao, who were all dirty, and looked at them with pity on their faces. From now on, if anything happens to you siblings, call the police. Don't get hurt. Let's go first, and you siblings can have a good time together. Thank you to the police and watch them leave. Uncle An asked nervously about the truth of the matter, and then looked at Mu Qingjian and his sister with even more distress. Their story quickly spread throughout the community, and everyone knew that Huang Wanwan was in jail and wanted to kill Mu Qingjian. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Xiao and returned home. Looking at the unbearable smell all over the house, he looked disgusted. Spell cleaning, the air in the house is instantly fresh and natural, and it is also clean. Hold Mu Xiao, who was so sleepy that he couldn't even open his eyes, and went to the bathroom to give him a bath. Mu Xiao, who looked sleepy, vaguely felt his sister taking a bath for him. He even kissed his forehead, and Mu Xiao lay down on the bed and fell asleep with a happy look on his face. Mu Qingjian changed her clothes and slept next to Mu Xiao. He looked at Mu Xiao who was suddenly hugging his waist. Holding him helplessly, he continued to sleep peacefully. Mu Qingjian seems to have frightened Mu Xiao these days, so she is so clingy. She is just a 5-year-old child who lost her parents when she was 2 years old. He and his timid and cowardly sister, apart from giving her a mouthful of food, could not protect him. So the 5-year-old child looks like a 3-year-old child, as pitifully thin as the original owner. As long as the original owner was stronger and dared to call the police and ask the police for help, she and Mu Xiao would not have such a difficult life. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Xiao and smiled. No one would dare to bully them in the future. No one else could harm Mu Qingjian's biological brother. In this life, she protects him to be prosperous, healthy, and happy for the rest of his life. This is her commitment to him and her love for him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 Selling the House. The sky was slightly bright. Mu Xiao opened his eyes, and looked at Mu Qingjian with his bright eyes. A small face, full of happiness. This was the first time he slept with his sister, and he was so happy. Mu Xiao's small body squirmed like a caterpillar. Leaning into Mu Qingjian's arms, she felt the warmth of her sister. With a satisfied look on his face, he had no idea that his little move had been noticed by Mu Qingjian who woke up. Looking at the clingy Mu Xiao, Mukinjian had no choice but to hug him. I touched his little head and carried him to the bathroom to brush his teeth and wash his face. Mu Xiao showed her white teeth and smiled so much that her dimples were revealed. Sister, Xiao has brushed her teeth. Okay, my Xiao is awesome, you can eat whatever you want today, this is a reward. Mu Qingjian stroked his head and smiled with an endearing look on her face. Mu Xiao's eyes were full of happiness, and he looked at Mu Qingjian with watery eyes. Really, sister, can I drink milk? No one has said anything like this to him in the past 3 years. Sometimes he would be beaten by Huang Wanwan and not given food. Snacks and things you like. He has never had it, and only occasionally the children next door and his grandparents give him food. He knew that Huang Wanwan was not his biological mother, so he never called her mother. Mu Xiao was tortured by Huang Wanwan a lot for this. Mu Qingjian was timid and cowardly, and did not dare to speak for Mu Xiao, so she could only hide in the corner in fear. Sometimes Huang Wanwan would step forward to stop her when the beating was severe. As a result, both siblings were beaten together. Mu Xiao has been very well behaved since she was 3 years old. She does everything and says nothing. This way Huang Wanwan will not hit him, and this way her sister will not be beaten, but it is inevitable that Huang Wanwan will hit them when she is unhappy. It sounds careless when I say it, but I feel distressed when I hear it. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Xiao. Xiao can tell me whatever he wants to eat from now on, you know? My sister is rich. Okay, sister, you are so kind. I like my current sister so much. I also liked her before, but I like my current sister even more. Mu Xiao looked confused. Mu Qingjian flicked his little head. Okay, let's go have breakfast. As soon as he left the community, all the grandparents and grandparents gathered around him. Mu Qingjian spent a lot of words to send them away, which was too gossipy. Although she cared about them, it was the first time for Mu Qingjian to come into contact with such enthusiastic people. Took Mu Xiao to the breakfast shop in the community and ordered a cup of hot milk for him. He also ordered a cup of hot milk for himself. After all, both he and Mu Xiao needed to replenish themselves. The two of them returned home. Mu Qingjian looked at the stack of paper handed to her by the lawyer. On the paper, it was written that the inheritance was more than 1 million yuan, as well as the house worth 1.6 million yuan. Today is the first day that the original owner turns 18, which is why Huang Wanwan is so anxious to kill Mu Qingjian. She killed a life for millions. Huang Wanwan is really cruel, and getting jailed is not that simple. Before leaving, he opened Huang Juanjuan's eyes. There were many good things accompanying her in this prison. Those who offended her, Mu Qingjian, or harmed her brother would be considered an advantage to her if they died. Living in fear every day was the real life worse than death. When she saw what Mu Xiao had experienced, Mu Qingjian was filled with anger. She would never let Huang Wanwan have an easy time. The lawyer held the certificate with a puzzled look on his face. You really plan to sell the house? This is the property your father left for you. Moreover, it has the value of upgrading in city. Why its market value will only rise and not fall? You are still young and don't understand, uncle. I understand, you have to think clearly. Mu Qingjian took Mu Xiao's hand and said, I know, but I need this money to take my younger brother to the imperial capital. I was admitted to the imperial capital's first capital, Emperor Phoenix Academy, and I need this money to take my younger brother to live in the imperial capital. The lawyer looked surprised. The college entrance examination has not been released yet and will not be released until this afternoon. How could she be sure that she would be able to get into the Imperial Phoenix Academy, the #1 university in the City of God? Could it be that she could even predict the future? Okay, I will find a buyer as soon as possible. Just think about it. After all, you are turning 18 today. You are the head of the household and you decide. Just don't regret it. Lawyer Su sighed helplessly. Thank you, Uncle Su, I have already thought about it. It will get better and better in the future. I can't always shrink in this small city. I still have a long way to go in the future, and I must work hard for Xiao's and my own future. Mu Qingjian looked determined. Lawyer Su saw the determined Mu Qingjian and had no choice but to agree to find the most cost-effective buyer for her. This can be regarded as his final contribution to Mu Qingjian. After all, his wife is already dissatisfied with him taking over Mu Qingjian's affairs. Mu Xiao looked at Mu Qingjian nervously. Sister, are we always together? Yes, sister will always be by Xiao's side, unless Xiao doesn't want her to accompany you. Mu Xiao immediately shook his head and hugged Mu Qingjian. Xiao will never abandon my sister. Sister, you can't abandon Xiao. Looking at Mu Xiao, who looked nervous, hugging him and hooking him up, and promising that he wouldn't let him go, he started to laugh. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 Large Car Accident. Mu Qingjian got up early and went shopping for daily necessities, and took Mu Xiao to buy a bunch of new clothes. After all, Mu Qingjian had thrown away everything here, so he wanted to buy some clothes and shoes. Simply pack your luggage and leave for the imperial capital the day after tomorrow. And Uncle Su just said that someone is willing to pay 1.6 million to buy a house on the condition that he will move out tomorrow. Mu Qingjian immediately agreed that she could move out now. Now I have 1.5 million in hand, and there is more than 1 million left by Mu's father, which is almost 3 million. This money is enough for Mu Qingjian to live well in the imperial capital for the time being and to pay Mu Xiao's tuition fees. The rest will be earned after she arrives in the imperial capital. She is full of curiosity about the world and longs for the unknown life. The next day, Mo Qingcheng on the side didn't pay attention to what Mu Qingjian said and still got in the car. A major explosion occurred on the navigation bridge heading to the imperial capital, with countless car accidents and a half-broken bridge deck. And Mo Qingcheng was right in the middle of the explosion point. They suffered heavy casualties near them, but they were not as good as them. This incident alerted dozens of fire trucks and dozens of ambulances. Shang He's face was covered in blood, the steel bar pierced the seat, and behind him was Mo Qingcheng. It almost hit Mo Qingcheng's vital part directly, but Shang He didn't know and thought that Mo Qingcheng was seriously injured. Shang He had blood on his face and watched nervously as the steel bar stabbed Mo Qingcheng. Master, how are you? I'll call an ambulance right away. You have to hold on. Shang He hurriedly picked up the phone, and Mo Qingcheng looked at the steel bars in front of him. He knew he didn't hurt any vital parts, but he was bleeding too much, making him look serious. Mo Qingcheng resisted the pain and took out the handkerchief with strange writing that Mu Qingjian handed him yesterday from the backpack he carried. When I picked it up, I was burned by the blood characters on the handkerchief, and the blood symbols were actually glowing. Shang He looked at the incredible scene in front of him in surprise, until the words on the handkerchief disappeared. The handkerchief also turned into ashes, and only a small pile of black ash remained in Mo Qingcheng's hand to prove its existence. Shang He covered his mouth. He didn't expect this to be true. Yesterday, the crazy girl said that they were in a disaster and had a narrow escape from death. He still silently felt that the other party was sick, but now he only felt that he was sick. Mo Qingcheng couldn't believe it. How could the girl know that he just felt a strange force that stopped the steel bar from penetrating into his body? Otherwise, he believed that the steel bar would pierce Shang He's head and his body. The smell of approaching death was too strong. Oh my God! They are still alive. The car is crushed like this. The life is really high. Save people quickly. The ambulance crew looked at the completely destroyed car body. A reinforced concrete stick stabbed Mo Qing in the driver's seat and behind. Shang He was rescued with his face covered in blood, while Mo Ching Cheng was stabbed in the body by a steel bar. The ambulance crew cut to facilitate the rescue of Mo Ching Cheng. Shang He called Mr. Mo at the first moment, and Mr. Mo received the call. When she learned that Mo Ching Cheng had been in a car accident, Mo's mother was so frightened that she almost fainted. Fortunately, Father Mo held her so she wasn't hurt. The three of them rushed to the hospital, taking Mo King Chen's uncle Yang Fanhang with them. Yang Fanhang was extremely nervous when he learned that his nephew had been in a car accident. After all, he was his sister's only child in her life. Several people were waiting at the entrance of the hospital early, looking at the countless injured people. Everyone was in extremely miserable condition, and some were not breathing before they even pushed through the hospital door. Medical staff tried their best to save her, with a look of regret on her face. Looking at this sad scene, Mother Mo was so frightened that she had no strength to stand up straight. Yang Fanhang looked at the scene of the serious car accident with a surprised look on his face. This was the scene of a huge car accident, with more than 100 casualties. Until the four of them saw Shang He getting out of an ambulance with blood on his face, they ran over quickly. Mr. Mo, Madam, Sir Shang He looked sad. Mother Mo saw Mo Ching Cheng fainted with steel bars inserted into his chest and wounds. Father Mo quickly picked him up and said, "What's going on? Cheng Cheng is okay. Okay, give way, let Chenger have a look at Fanhang." Mr. Mo picked up the stick and hit Father Mo. Mo's father quickly gave way, and Yang Fanhang and the medical staff quickly pushed Mo Ching Cheng to the operating room. 1 hour after the operation, Yang Fanhang took off his coat. "Mr. Mo, sister, brother-in-law. Cheng is fine, no vital injuries. He just bled too much, so it's nothing serious." Mo's mother finally felt relieved, hugged Father Mo and cried in fear. Father Mo patted her back, "It's okay, don't be afraid." Mr. Mo had an angry look on his face. "What's going on, Xiao He? How did you get into a car accident?" Shang He quickly told the whole story, and Mr. Mo was instantly curious about Mu Qingjian in Shang He's mouth. Yang Fanhang felt that Shang He might have had a car accident, causing serious adverse effects, commonly known as mental fantasy. Mo's mother was very grateful to the little girl named Mu Qingjian. Maybe it was the amulet she gave her that saved her son. Mo's father felt that Mu Qingjian's origins were unknown and why he was close to his son. Whether it was good or bad was Mo's father's opinion of Mu Qingjian. Mu Qingjian didn't know all this, she was busy moving with her baby. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 Becoming Famous. Mu Qingjian didn't know that the amulet she gave to Mo Ching Cheng aroused the attention of the Mo family. Mu Qingjian felt that the blood amulet had been activated, and she knew that Mo Ching Cheng did not listen to her words. Fortunately, the person is still alive, otherwise it would be a pity to have the purple aura all over him. Lawyer Su took a look at the college entrance examination results of City Y in the afternoon. He was shocked that Mu Qingjian was the top scorer in the college entrance examination of City Y. Mu Qingjian took the college entrance examination transcript and the teacher's reward for the top scorer in the college entrance examination, and ran away secretly. The reporters outside did not see Mu Qingjian and quickly asked Mu Qingjian's class teacher. The head teacher looked at me and was there just now, but then turned around and disappeared. Under the reporters' questioning, the head teacher had no choice but to give Mu Qingjian's address. The head teacher didn't know that Mu Qingjian had already gotten on the bus and left City Y. After all, the person who knew Mu Qingjian the most was probably the head teacher, so he left school early to avoid trouble. The reporter hurried to Mu Qingjian's residence and was told that he had gone to the imperial capital. The reporter also asked about the tragic story of the top scorer in the college entrance examination, and looked pitiful and surprised. "This is good news." The reporter quickly recorded it. Then he left with a happy face. Soon Mu Kinjian made headlines, a miserable girl whose father died 3 years ago. He was beaten by his stepmother for a long time, and his younger brother was abducted and sent to the countryside by her stepmother. In the end, his stepmother took away the inheritance. The lover was bribed to kill the girl, but the girl came back alive and mustered up the courage to call the police for help. In the end, the stepmother and her lover were sentenced to jail. The girl had excellent grades in high school for 3 years and finally won the top spot in the college entrance examination. Taking his younger brother from the same mother, he stayed away from this heartbroken city. Netizens have commented that such stepmothers only exist in novel plots. I didn't expect that there really was a vicious stepmother in reality. I was really scared to death. Girl Mu Kinjian became the #1 hot search topic and was named and praised by the country. The most inspiring story to tell teenagers. Live hard, study hard, and actively call the police for help when in danger. Mu Kinjian didn't know that her name had become completely popular, and the entire people of country H knew about her miserable experience. So every time she called her Mu Kinjian, everyone looked at her with pity. Mu Kinjian sneezed, touched her nose, and looked confused. What's going on today? Why do I always feel like someone is talking about me? Feeling inexplicably cold, Mu Kinjian hugged Mu Xiao and smelled the milky fragrance on his body. Suddenly I don't feel so cold anymore, that's what my brother uses. Mu Xiao opened his watery and sparkling eyes and looked at Mu Kinjian with a puzzled expression. After looking at it for a while, he continued to eat the ice cream with his head down. Hold up the spoon and make a milky sound. Sister, you have delicious ice cream, sister. Mu Kinjian took a bite without politeness and said, well, that's really delicious. Xiao, please finish it for your sister. Mu Xiao smiled until her eyes were like the moon, okay. Touching his head, Mu Kinjian looked satisfied. Looking outside the car, Mu Kinjian looked surprised. People in this era don't have magic, but they are more powerful than those who have magic. Mu Kinjian was still very surprised to be able to travel thousands of miles a day without any magic, and to have an airplane that could fly into the sky. Although Mu Kinjian has seen the past of the original owner with her heavenly eyes, she has no memory of her. After all, the person is dead and the soul is no longer there. It is impossible to get her memory, this is the most common sense. She only saw her life experience, so this world was unfamiliar to Mu Kinjian. After driving for several hours, Mu Kinjian finally arrived in the imperial capital. Looking at the bustling city in front of us, high-rise buildings are rising from the ground. Let Mu Kinjian be more determined to have her own lofty status here, and she wants everyone to remember the Mu Suansha family. Hooking Mu Xiao's little hand with his left hand, and holding the suitcase with his right hand. Two thin people stood out. Mu Kinjian doesn't care about other people's opinions at all. Her noble temperament is something that outsiders cannot control. Where are you going, little girl? This is the Imperial City North Station, which is still an hour away from the Imperial City. Do you want to get on the train? An upright and kind-hearted uncle greeted Mu Kinjian politely. Mu Kinjian smiled slightly and said, Uncle, I'm going to be near the first academy of Imperial University. You can just find a convenient place to drop me off. Okay, come on, let me put the suitcase for you. After the uncle finished speaking, Mu Kinjian handed the suitcase to the driver. After getting into the car, the driver asked curiously. Little girl, where are the adults in your family? How can they trust you and your brother? Mu Kinjian hugged the sleepy Mu Xiao and patted his back. My father and mother have passed away long ago, and there are only two of us, my brother and me. The driver was surprised for a moment and looked at Mu Kinjian in the rearview mirror with a look of pity. You are Mu Kinjian, the top scorer in the college entrance examination in City Y, right? Oh, little girl. Why didn't I mention your sadness on purpose? I will give you this fare for free, man. Keep up the good work. Mu Kinjian looked confused. What was going on? How did the driver know her name? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 9. Chapter 9 Hell Dog. Mu Kinjian handed a few hundred yuan to the driver, but the driver refused to take it. Little girl, you have just graduated. It is not easy to make money. Take your money and eat something delicious, the driver said with a distressed look. Mu Kinjian saw a strange black light on the driver's forehead, indicating that something was going to happen to him. Silently handed out a piece of yellow talisman paper from his pocket. Uncle, since you are unwilling to take the money, then you can take this talisman as it is my wish. It can keep you safe and the safety of your family. Thank you, uncle. The uncle driver took the amulet given by Mu Kinjian with a curious look on his face and put it into his pocket. Little did he know that his unconscious actions saved his family's lives. The driver uncle took the charm given by Mu Kinjian and wanted to solicit customers as usual. I came home exhausted from a busy day and fell asleep directly on the sofa next to my bed because of a gas explosion in the hotel downstairs. There were heavy casualties nearby, but the driver and his family were fine upstairs. The neighbors next door were all seriously injured, but only the driver's uncle and his family of 3 were not injured at all. The driver's uncle looked at the talisman in his pocket. When the explosion occurred, he immediately hugged the mother and son. As a result, he watched the amulet glow, and when he held it in his hand, it turned into ashes. This made the driver's uncle look surprised. Mu Kinjian's talisman was so magical. This made the driver's uncle's family treat Mu Kinjian as a benefactor. Mu Kinjian on the other side held Mu Xiao and looked at the unfamiliar city. After lunch, I asked my boss about affordable and safe rentals nearby. Mu Xiao was gradually getting tired after a day of running around. Clinging to Mu Kinjian's arms, she didn't want to walk anymore. Mu Kinjian looked at Mu Xiao, who had been tired all day and was already in poor physical condition. I walked a lot today and I'm really tired. Carrying Mu Xiao and the agent to a luxury hotel-style rental house, he saw that the house was cheap and large, so he signed the contract directly. The agent ran quickly with the contract in hand and pressed down on the first floor, as if there was a ghost chasing behind him. The reason why the agent ran away so fast was not because the house was haunted. That's why it's so cheap, otherwise it's in the bustling area of the imperial capital. The monthly rent is only 60,000 yuan. How can it be so cheap if there are no problems? Even though the room is new and no one has lived in it, it is still haunted. If you stay in this room for an hour, you will either die or be disabled. It was very strange that more than 10 people had accidents in a row. So the agent left immediately after only half an hour. As long as he ran fast and didn't time out, he wouldn't be injured. Otherwise, this house would not have changed from 300,000 yuan a month to 60,000 yuan a month, and no one would live in it. Mu Kinjian didn't care about this and kept the house clean. Seeing that he finally had a decent home, Mu Xiao looked around the room with excitement. Following behind Mu Kinjian, he was no longer tired or sleepy now. After tidying up the house, Mu Kinjian turned on the TV for Mu Xiao and showed her a cartoon. In the original owner's picture, it seems that watching animation is a very happy thing. Mu Xiao was holding popcorn and watching cartoons happily, her little legs swaying. Looking at the obedient Mu Xiao, Mu Kinjian sat on the sofa. After playing with the phone for several hours, I finally figured it out. She found that this mobile phone was really easy to use and very convenient. She could get food delivered to her without spending any mana. Ordering takeout, eating and drinking, and coaxing Mu Xiao to sleep. Mu Kinjian waved her hand, and Mu Xiao was protected in a light. Come out, you pretender, and do whatever you want to do in front of your ancestor, or I will kill you. A strange black ball floated in the air, with a pair of big ruby eyes. He looked at Mukinjian cautiously. Who are you? How can you see me? It turns out to be a dog. No wonder it dared to hurt countless people, but no one dared to take you in. Mukinjian looked at it calmly. Hell demon dog, humph, since you can see this demon, why don't you leave here quickly? This is not a place for you to stay. If you don't want to die, just leave. Mukinjian laughed. Just you? You don't even have the ability to leave this room now. Even in your heyday, you were no match for this heavenly master. Of course, if you are willing to be my demon envoy, I will spare your life. How? The hell demon dog grinned and looked at the shameless Mukinjian. You are a shameless person. If I hadn't been injured, you would have dared to make such a request to me. I dare. Why don't you dare? I'm not asking you if you are willing, I want to ask if you want to live or die. Mukinjian narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at the dog quietly. The hell demon dog felt aggrieved and howled with tears in his eyes. Oh, you bully others, hurt me, and take advantage of me. Oh, you are a bad person. Mukinjian twitched the corner of her mouth slightly, wondering where the majestic dog had gone. What is this whining thing in front of her? She dislikes it so much that she feels a little wronged by having it be her devil. Mukinjian waved her hand. Okay, you are a demon dog, not a human. I will heal your injuries, and you can leave. Don't hurt others again, or I will accept you. This article is not about real modern life. This article is about a book on Aquamarine Planet. Don't compare money consumption with reality. After all, this article is a fantasy realistic novel, a combination of multiple elements. All consumption does not follow the path of reality, so comparison is impossible. Thank you for understanding. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Lugo Meyer. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 Fat Dog. The hell demon dog looked at Mukinjian, who looked disgusted with him, and instantly became angry. You actually despise me as your demon envoy? How dare you despise me? I am a world-famous devil dog. Who doesn't want me? You still dare to despise me? I'm so angry. After saying that, he bit Mukinjian's hand and made a direct contract with the demon envoy. The hell demon dog looked at Mukinjian with an arrogant and domineering look. Haha, I made you dislike me, now do you still dare to dislike me? Mukinjian held her forehead. This silly dog. If he doesn't want to, the contract can be successful. Why is this guy completely incomparable in IQ to the cold devil dog he has seen before? Then I really thank you. You turned me into an ordinary puppy. Don't scare my brother, or I will throw you back to hell, Mukinjian said to the devil dog. When the dog heard this, she wanted to send her back to hell, and she immediately turned into an ordinary little milk dog. Don't try to send me out. I managed to escape. I don't want to go back to that ghost place. I'm your envoy now, you can't hurt me. Mukinjian looked at the childish devil dog. It was really deceptive and cute. Well, as long as you protect my brother, you will naturally benefit from it. I like loyalty. If you are unfaithful once, you will never be loyal again. Do you understand? The hell demon dog swallowed a gulp of water and looked at Mukinjian, who was glowing with aura. I will not betray you. Mukinjian touched its white hair and said, that's very good. You can call me Dandan from now on. The hell demon dog looked disgusted and said, Master, I am a hell demon dog. How can the names of these two dogs, Dandan, be worthy of such a noble me? What the hell, is this? Isn't this the name of a dog? How could it have such a name? After it goes out, it will not be laughed at by other demons. Oh, really, Mukinjian gently touched her chin with her fingertips and glanced meaningfully. I think the egg sounds pretty good, tastes good, and sounds good. Dandan had a doggy face and a frustrated look on his face. Master, did you name me because you thought of eggs? Mukinjian concealed a smile and said, haha, that's not the case. Dandan is pretty good. How about Erden? Master, I think Dandan sounds pretty good, and Dandan likes it very much, Dandan quickly explained. It was finally convinced by Mukinjian's majesty and agreed to the silly name. Mukinjian looked arrogant and said, it has to sound nice. Just be satisfied. This is my first time naming it. Dandan chuckled, it's the first time, this devil dog really doesn't want it. Mukinjian yawned. Her physical condition was really bad and she was going to sleep. I'm sleeping. You can do whatever you want. Just don't hurt people at will. Looking at the recovered injury, Dandan flew out excitedly. It wants a good meal. Hundreds of ghosts were sucked out of their ghost energy overnight in the imperial capital. This scared the nearby ghosts away for several kilometers, making it impossible to stay in this place. The appearance of the dog frightened the ghosts in the imperial capital and quickly alerted the messengers of hell. Seeing that he was in trouble, Dandan attracted the messenger and quickly transformed into a little milk dog. He swaggered past the hell messenger, his dog face full of happiness. What's going on? I just sensed the hell demon dog, but why did it suddenly disappear? One of the hell messengers looked puzzled. Another hell messenger looked at the on the ground with a look of disgust. An ordinary dog that is round and plump like a slowly walking egg. Let's go, he must have run away. This fat puppy doesn't look like a dog. The two hell messengers instantly disappeared into the darkness, behind them as they left. Dandan has a dog-like face with an angry look on his face. I'm going to you, uncle. You're a fat man, your whole family is made of eggs, I'm a strong man, you're such a stupid idiot, you're so mad at me. Dandan was so angry that he jumped up and down. These two messengers are idiots. They dare to despise it and scold it. They don't know the majesty of the devil dog without giving them a lesson. Eggs were so angry that the ghosts of the nearby ghosts were also eaten. Then he swaggered away from the messenger of and urinated at his feet. Hell messenger floated up with a look of disgust on his face, and looked at Dandan. This fat dog can't see me, he peed at my feet. Dandan pretended not to see him, walked past him, and ran home in a hurry. Of course they couldn't find out that Dandan was a hellhound. Dandan has already made a contract with Mukinjian, so Mukinjian has already considered this issue. He had long since transformed for Eggy to hide the demonic energy, so they couldn't see it. Okay, it's just an ordinary dog, let's go. This devil dog is very cunning. I injured it a few months ago. Now it has appeared again. It seems that it is not that strong. The two messengers disappeared again. On the edge of darkness. When Dandan got home, he felt so comfortable that he wanted to jump on the bed. Mukinjian's magic shield caused Dandan's dog-like face to hit the invisible barrier and slowly slide down. Looking at Mukinjian and Mu Xiao sleeping comfortably, Dandan was so outraged that she even refused to let them go to bed. After saying that, he lay on the table with an aggrieved look on his face and fell asleep in a daze. End of this chapter.